English shorthand 120 words per minute. Modern shorthand transcriptions. Volume 7. Passage number 139. Please get ready. Start. Mr. Deputy Chairman, Sir, I rise in support of this bill and I wish to make some suggestions and comments. There can be no two views about the vital importance of human rights, and we should be happy nation that on the whole a nascent institution like the National Human Rights Commission under a relatively new act has discharged its functions creditably. It has achieved international recognition and status within a relatively short time, and most important is its view and decisions have greater moral authority than mere legal efficacy. That it has done so is partly because of the objectivity, the impartiality, and the great detail of research which it has brought to bear upon its task. The life of any legislation must be periodically reviewed. It is a constantly evolving dynamic process, and it is good that after these few years of the National Human Rights Commission, we have brought in an amendment in the light of experiences gained. The proposed legislation has several positive features. I will not take time to that, but just to mention and highlight, for example, to amend the definition of the international covenants, because in international law, no single instrument carries universal authority. A host of international instruments relating to human rights create a corpus of international jurisprudence which becomes both practice and convention and is followed by all the nations. Now that this act amends the definition to include that entire corpus of international law generating instruments, in a sense, we are going to adopt and go not by low standards but increasing the standards to somewhere nearer maximum standards, and that is very good. Secondly, the provision regarding surprise visits, surprise checks, surprise inspections is also very welcome, and I think it was more by oversight than by design that the original one intended that there should be full notice. The guidelines which the Supreme Court laid down regarding custodial torture or custodial deaths was surprise visits at jail houses, at police stations to check such an abuse. So I think that is again a very welcome and laudatory amendment proposed. Thirdly, the power of the National Human Rights Commission to transfer matters to state commission is also useful provision. It is an apex institution at the national level, and it also declogs the system if it has the authority and the power to decentralize adjudication to the various other state commission. I therefore have a simple suggestion for the Honorable Minister to consider, which will in fact achieve the purpose which this bill seeks to implement and yet not open the floodgates. The human right issues arise in public law. Public law is administered in our country by courts which are known as writ jurisdiction court. Now, since that deals with human rights and public law issues, it might be best to make a small amendment and to provide the reference to the National Human Rights Commission can be made by all courts which exercise writ jurisprudence power. Additionally, of course, that Supreme Court can always refer to the National Human Rights Commission. So, this twin power of allowing referrals by courts at the High Court level exercising writ jurisdiction plus the Supreme Court will suffice to achieve the purpose which the minister seeks to achieve without opening the floodgates. Today, because the National Human Rights Commission cannot give compensation, the person is entitled to go to the normal civil court and seek compensation. In that civil court, he would get a decree which he can enforce. Now, if he goes to the National Human Rights Commission and get an order of compensation which he cannot enforce, he will be both without a remedy in the National Human Rights Commission and also not be able to go to a civil court, because you cannot have dual remedy or double damages on the same course of action. So I think the solution will have to be providing for the case where the National Human Rights Commission gives compensation at least in that limited category, provide that its orders will be enforceable. That will complete the circuit and complete the picture. Therefore, sir, may I suggest in conclusion that this bill, which is undoubtedly a very significant and important bill, deserves to be considered constructively and passed with two suggestions which I have made as far as the reference to the National Human Rights Commission is concerned, and as far as the compensation issue is concerned. I submit, sir, for the kind consideration of this August House, and no change is required as far as the pool of potential candidates is concerned, and that amendment is very salutary, indeed is desirable. Sir, I therefore move this bill for consideration along with the suggestions which I have made. I hope the House will pass this bill wholeheartedly without any partisan attitude, because, sir, as we all know, this issue is not related to this section of the House or that section of the House. This is a matter which is concerned with the entire country as a whole.